Have you ever had that moment when you suddenly realise you're not actually hearing people think, you're hearing people repeat? Repeat what their parents taught them, repeat what their teachers taught them, repeat what the television told them to think, repeat what the social media rewards, repeat what everybody around them already believes. And one day, you stop and you ask yourself, what do I actually believe? You see, none of us arrive in this world with our own worldviews. We're born into one. Our parents shape it. Our schools educate us. Our culture influences us. Our nation tells us its story. Our religion, if we've got one, often gives us the answers before we've even realised what the questions are. We inherit our beliefs, and that is perfectly natural. But for some people, that isn't enough. Something doesn't quite fit. Something doesn't quite resonate. The questions become louder than the answers, and that's where the journey truly begins. For me, it started when I was about 16 years old, and I'd gone into Waterstones and stumbled across a book called The Biggest Secret by David Icke. And whether or not you agree with him or not, that book changed everything. Not because it gave me all the answers, and it didn't. It changed me because, for the first time, somebody challenged me to question everything. And from that moment on, I realised that I didn't have to simply accept something because someone in authority told me to. I could investigate, read, listen, think for myself, and also decide what the truth actually was. Everybody's journey starts differently. Sometimes it's heartbreak, trauma, the death of somebody you love, a life-changing experience, or an endlessly inquisitive mind. There'll be a conversation that changes everything. Maybe it's travel, meditation, or even psychedelic experiences. Sometimes it's simply reaching a point where the answers that you've inherited no longer satisfy the questions that you're asking. Whatever lights that spark, though, that's where the real journey to understanding the nature of reality begins. But I need to caveat this because most people never do. Because thinking for yourself, it's quite uncomfortable. And it's much easier to follow the crowd, to dress like everyone else, to speak like everyone else, to believe what everyone else believes, to inherit our opinions without ever examining them. Because conformity feels safe, especially when everybody around you applauds you for doing it and ridicules you for not. But history isn't written by those who simply fitted in. It's written by those people prepared to ask, what if we're wrong? The explorers, the inventors, the reformers, the scientists, the philosophers and the artists. People willing to risk being misunderstood in pursuit of something true. And every breakthrough in history started with somebody refusing to accept the accepted wisdom. But here's the important bit. Thinking for yourself doesn't mean believing every alternative idea, every conspiracy theory that you come across. And it also doesn't mean rejecting everything from the mainstream. It doesn't mean becoming cynical and saying, I'm tapping out of life and going living in a cave. Real critical thinking works both ways. It means that you question authority, but you also question yourself. You remove the ego and you stay humble enough to admit, I might be wrong. Because changing your mind when better evidence appears, that's not weakness, it's wisdom. And as your search continues, you might start to explore ideas which you'd never considered before, from religion, philosophy, psychology, science, history, mysticism and spirituality. Each of these disciplines is trying to answer the same timeless questions. Why are we here? How should we live? What gives life meaning? What happens after we die? And I have this point on religion. You see, if only one of them can be the true path to enlightenment and eternal salvation, what about everybody else? Let's take Christianity, for example. The true path to God is through Jesus Christ. So therefore, anyone who doesn't follow Christianity is doomed to eternal damnation. You know, through no fault of their own, people are born in different countries to Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism. How can only one of these systems be true? And then that doesn't even take into account all of the other belief systems like Wicca, Druidism, paganism. If one of these systems is true and everything else is false, then how do we explain the wisdom, devotion and profound experiences found throughout all of the others? But maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe a better question is, what can I learn from all of them? What can I cherry pick from them all to make me a better person? So I say, read widely, study history, study the Bible, read the Quran, read Plato and Jung, study science, listen to people that you disagree with, not because you'll end up agreeing with them, but because every perspective, especially one's counter to your own, sharpens your mind. Because the goal isn't to collect opinions, it's to develop your own wisdom. You know, with the rise of AI and ChatGPT, people are starting to outsource their thinking. Don't do that. Don't inherit your beliefs by default. Question respectfully, explore courageously, and always stay curious. Because the greatest prison is not being wrong. The greatest prison is never discovering whether the ideas you live by are your own or somebody else's. So here's the choice. You can spend your life following the crowd, waiting for somebody else to tell you what to think, how to dress, what to say, who to vote for and what to believe. Or you can accept responsibility for thinking for yourself, to lead rather than to follow, to explore rather than to repeat, to question rather than conform. The path won't always be easy, and I can tell you that from personal experience. Most of the time you'll stand on your own. Sometimes people will laugh at you behind your back or ridicule you. Let them. Who cares? Because every meaningful journey begins with one person willing to step away from the crowd. So be a leader or be a follower. But whatever you choose, never be afraid. The sleepers are waking up.